Welcome back, folks. Today we're going to be diving into the world of bait tanks. I'm going to be sharing with you how to properly clean them and maintain them throughout the year to be able to keep your bait healthier and more lively. Let's get to it. So gizzard shad are a fantastic bait option, but they require specific care to be able to thrive. So before we jump right into the tank setup, let's talk a little bit about gizzard shad. Now, these bait fish are known for their effectiveness as live bait, and they are usually used for predatory fish like bass, stripers, and also flathead catfish. But they make excellent bait as well, as long as you take good care of them, as cut bait for channel cats and also blue cats. However, they have specific needs in water quality and temperatures to be able to stay good and alive and thriving for you as live bait. Now, if you made the mistake like I did and left your filtering system in your tank throughout the winter time after the last time you used it, here's a good tip for you. Grab you a 5-gallon bucket. We're going to fill this with water, and then we're going to let these soak in this water to help soften the ammonia and all the poop and scales so that we can clean these filters after we get done cleaning the tank. Let's get to it. All right, so to show you guys firsthand kind of how this is going to work, like I said, I left these in the tank over the winter by mistake. Don't do that. If you can, clean it before winter or before you put it up, kind of like winterizing it, I guess you could say. But if you make the mistake like I did and leave the filters in it dirty, here's firsthand how to do this. Put those in the bucket and let them soak. And what that does, let me turn this one inside out to show you everything that's in this from last season. And you can see kind of how stiff. These are microfiber like style socks you can buy off Amazon, but you can see the nastiness. That's all poop and scales. The discoloration is ammonia. That's really hard to get out once it's dried, but we'll be able to clean this filter up pretty decent. So stick that down in there, and like I said, we're going to let it soak while we're cleaning the rest of this tank. All right, so with the tank completely empty, you see I got the drains in the bottom. We'll keep those out. I got all the filtering system out. All we have left in there are the PVC pipes and the directional flows, and then of course the pumps. All right, so now that you got the tank cleaned out, you got all the junk off of it, it is not a catch-all. I like to clean it out with Dawn, just a couple little drops of Dawn, and I actually like to use these magic erasers. I pick them up at the dollar store, pretty cheap. So we'll get some Dawn and water in a bucket. I think it's like a 3-gallon bucket, and I literally just put a couple drops. You don't need a whole lot. You don't want to put a whole lot in there because it's hard to get it all out. So let's just put a couple little drops and get some water in there. All right, so now we have our soapy water ready to go. Next step, I'm just going to spray out as much as I possibly can. Try to get the heavy slime and residue off of it with the water hose, and then we will kind of start wiping the inside of it out. I don't want to put a lot of soap or soapy water inside of there. I'm just going to wet the sponge and wipe it and clean it the best I can. Get in all those little nooks and crannies. Try to get it all out the best we can. The more detail you go into here, the better off your bait's going to be once you get the water in it and get everything treated. All right, so now that I got it clean, you guys can see down into that water and just all of the nastiness that come off the walls and off the bottom. Now with the inside wiped out, the easiest way to get all that water and dirt and grime out of there is basically to flip it up on its side and let it go out the drain and kind of keep spraying the water until you get it down to a minimal amount. Then we'll take a dry rag and kind of soak up the rest and get the rest of the dirt and nastiness out of it. Now, while you're doing this part, this is also a good time to go ahead and spray the outside and kind of clean the outside up as well. And just keep in mind that you don't need a lot of soap. It's more of the water hose and just this sponge than anything. So now you can kind of see what is left, that little bit of dirt and water that is right there. What I normally do is just throw some towels down in there and dry it out. Now this specific tank only has one drain, and it is right down here in the very bottom. But it also has a flush out system on both sides where you can hook hoses to it and flush fresh water in and let the old water go out. So you want to be mindful of how high the water is going to be in the tank. Let's get this plug in and start filling this baby with water. Now I personally only like to do them hand tight, but you can take a pair of pliers and tighten them up a little bit more. Or if it is leaking, you may have to tighten it up just a shade. All right, so now that the tank is filling up with water, let's talk about the additives that we're going to be putting into the tank, because this is straight chlorinated water, county water. It's not well water, creek water, or anything like that. So we have to put something in to neutralize chlorine and the other chemicals and metals that are within this water. So I start with what is called Stress Coat Plus. This is something you can buy at most pet stores around the nation. I've found it all over the country at like PetSmarts, and it comes with a measuring cup built in, and it calls for 1 ml per gallon of water. And this measuring cup will go up to 10 mLs. We are running an 80-gallon extreme bait tank, so we'll need obviously 8 of those. Then I like to use what is called non-iodized salt. This is just like a mix and feed salt from a feed store that you would give your animals. It's just non-iodized. You cannot put table salt within your bait tank. It will kill it. This is not the best salt to use, but it will work. I've got a bunch of it left over from last year, so I want to use it up before I buy more. The best salt to use in these tanks is what is called water softener salt. All natural crystals. You can find it a lot of times at Lowe's, Ace Hardware's, Home Depot's, places like that. Non-clean, all natural ice water softener salt crystals is the best thing to use. But anyway, I like to put 1 cup per 10 gallons of water. So obviously we'd have to have 8 cups, and then enough of our Stress Coat Plus to go in the tank. One thing about the Stress Coat Plus is it has aloe vera in it to help with any of the injured bait fish. Whenever you catch them, a lot of times you'll cut them, things like that. That will help heal them within the tank. So let's get all these additives in and get it filled up. Now one thing is for sure, I like to add in all of my salt and all of my Stress Coat Plus, all of my chemicals in the water as I'm filling it up. That just helps let everything dissolve properly. I said we're 10 mLs, 1 per gallon, so that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Put a little extra in. You can't really go overboard with this stuff, and this is absolutely the best stuff that I have ever used. It removes chlorine and detoxifies heavy metals out of this water. Plus, like I said, it has the aloe vera in it as well. Okay, so as this tank is filling up, let's take a minute to talk about oxygen. So oxygen is obviously the biggest, most important part at keeping bait fish alive. Now this tank has 800 a gallon, 110 pumps, and also 12-volt pumps made into it that are hooked to what is called a Danco aeration system. If you don't know what a Danco aeration system is, then I highly recommend that you go and you Google it. They're just a fitting that goes in line. They're a directional flow, sucks air in, and really puts good, fine oxygen into the water, disperses it throughout the water column as well. But there are other ways to oxygenate your bait tank: aerators, agitators, and recirculating pumps, things like that, venturis that you can add into it. The main thing is you just want to make sure that you got plenty of oxygen, amount of bait that you're going to try to keep. I recommend that you keep somewhere around 1 big or large gizzard shad per gallon of water. That is a pretty safe place to be. Now you can load that up more if you're going to be using them right after you catch them, but keeping them long term, it is 1 per gallon or less. Now a couple of other things to keep in mind is the direction that your water will be going, and also the amount of flow that you will have in the tank. Now for me, I like a clockwise rotation rather than a counterclockwise rotation. I don't think that that is as important as the amount of flow. Now this tank has 2 different flows. It's got a small jet style flow, then a larger, more softer style flow. When it comes to long term or trying to keep bait longer than a week or 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, then I like a softer, more gentle flow. It allows that bait fish to relax and kind of school up with one another and just go with the flow rather than having to fight the amount of flow that that jet style head will put out. Now the only thing left to do is to clean these nasty old filters. Easiest way to do it is just to dive in. If you let them soak and they just don't want to come clean, sometimes it's better off to let them soak overnight. But we're going to see how well these come clean, and then we're going to get them in the tank. Easiest way, just use a water hose and a lot of pressure. Now you can kind of see how everything's starting to come off of it. I will put my hand down inside of it and work the crease where all that stuff gathers at the bottom. I like to go from the top down or from the bottom down. Either way, you just want to go one direction and try to work that stuff out the best you can. I want to show you here real quick. You can see the difference. Like down here, the ammonia hasn't come out yet, and up here it's starting to come out. So we still got some work to do with these. Clean the rest of these up and we'll get them in the tank. Now once you have your tank up and running and filled up with bait, the only thing to really do is just monitor the quality of water. If you start smelling something, foul odor coming from the tank, or if you notice that the water is starting to get cloudy, do like a partial water change. Empty about half the tank of water and then use 5-gallon buckets to kind of treat them as you go and fill the tank back up. Other than that, the only thing left to do is get some bait in that thing and start fishing this season. Hey, if you want any information on the tank or the filters, go over to extremebaittanks.com. That's where I got that tank. That's where these filters are come from. Other than that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And until next time, God bless. Tight lines, and we'll catch you on the water.